Hey guys, Ace here and welcome back to another episode of the Honest Reviews series. For this episode, we will continue covering the recently released Elden Ring DLC, Shadow of the Erdtree. Today, we will be plunging into the cold and terrifying depths of the Abyssal Woods, as well as exploring the ambush-torn MIDRA'S Manse, hiding deep within the woods. I decided to combine these two areas together into one video mainly due to how short both of them are, and how they also act as what I refer to as a package dungeon. Exploring both of these together is a journey in itself, and it no doubt makes the end result so much more worth it once we reach it. Spoilers ahead, I love this boss to death. FromSoft hid this location pretty darn well, so let's start off by figuring out how we even access this place. After abusing luck and a mimic tier to defeat Rolana and pass the Castle Ensis Gate leading to Shadow Altus, we'll get access to Shadow Keep, the main legacy dungeon of this DLC, and the heart of the Shadow Realm. You've probably heard me say that about Shadow Keep way too many times if you watch my honest review episodes for Shadow Keep. You should definitely go check those out sometime if you haven't. Shameless plug aside, if we get to this area in Shadow Keep before the Specimen Storehouse lift, go down this ladder, enter this area, and hit this fake wall, we come across this area with a coffin near an edge that you can hop inside of. This will take us down the waterway waterfall of Shadow Keep into the river below. We then need to follow this river all the way over here, and do some risky drops on these gravestones next to these shit hippos. And here we are, Darklight Catacombs. I don't know if this is the only way to get to the entrance of the catacombs, so correct me if there's another way, or let me know if I'm right. I'll take either or in a humbling manner. I won't detail the catacombs too much, but I can mention that there are 3 levels to it, and the last level leads us to a boss fight with an Elder Inquisitor named Jory. It's a simple and kind of fun fight if you like getting ass slammed by an overweight summon, who comes out of nowhere every once in a while whenever Jory wants to tarnish nostrils to suffer. Once we defeat Jory, we then get access to the Abyssal Woods region. You can already tell from Jory's boss arena that this place is gonna be creepy, and I'm all for it. This place is a frenzy-infested woodland deep down below the normal ground level of the Land of Shadow. You know who isn't down for this adventure? Torrent. This was a big psych out on my first playthrough, and I'm not gonna lie, this definitely shocked me at first. At the moment, I didn't even think to resummon Torrent. I just told myself, that's definitely supposed to happen, and moved on with my life. But apparently, if you try to resummon Torrent anytime after his sudden exit, you get a unique message stating that the spectral steed is frightened and cannot be summoned. Yikes, you guys see how big this area is? Oh, right, we don't have the map piece yet. Well, if we run past this grace here and follow the map marker on the map, we'll come back to you, don't worry. We can find the map, and holy shit, this place is massive. You expect me to not use Torrent while exploring this place? This better be an integrally designed region with a lot to do. We don't want another finger ruin situation.
I'm the giant rat that makes all of the rules.
So before the Woodland Trail's grace, we have these messages on the ground left by FromSoft themselves. And these are some terrifying messages indeed. I remember the feeling of dread and confusion when reading these for the first time, wondering what the fuck is out there, and when is it going to inevitably get me. Despite the feeling of fear and the possibility of wetting my mega super ultra gaming chair, I trudged on, starting my journey on what would be both the most intriguing and boring experience I've had with a location within the DLC. I'll say it now so I don't sound stupidly redundant throughout the whole video. There ain't lickety split to do here. Yeah, we encounter this NPC fight here, which gives us a frenzy-based fist weapon, which, no lie, seems cool. But every corner of this location features the best FromSoft enemy to date. Rats. Rats are everywhere here. If you aren't fighting rats, then you're walking a somewhat linear trail west that leads us to another trail that heads south, that then leads us to what the player really wants, a fun-to-explore mini-legacy dungeon. The first-time playthroughs of this place will probably intrigue many players, but I also saw others mention how they felt bored going through here after we figure out what the tombstones at the start of the region were alluding to, which is the return of Bloodborne's Winter Lanterns. I will die on my cozy little hill that the Winter Lanterns from Bloodborne are one of the coolest enemy designs I've ever seen in any game ever. However, mechanically, they're a drag to deal with. I bring this up because while exploring the woods, we come across another FromSoft message telling us stuff like combat isn't an option, and to quietly await your chance and crouch in the undergrowth. And if you look on ahead, you see this thing. Also, yes, these bastards did it. They added a sneak section to their game, like they were Ubisoft making their 15th Assassin's Creed game. I mean, yeah, these sneak sections are butt-clenching at first when you don't know what or how these enemies work, as you literally can't hit them. They have an insta-kill grab attack. The frenzy meter builds up insanely quick if they look at you. They're miles faster than you. And they can teleport to your location after a few seconds. So if you try to run after getting spotted by one of these things, then good luck. However, when doing some research, I found that you can just parry them. And then pull a riposte. And kill them this way. And one of these guys drops a cool talisman, so the developers wanted you to figure this out. But in the end, that really just defeats the purpose of these sections, but hey, it's still an alright addition to spice the gameplay up and switch everything up. Which is pretty cool, but Silly Ace didn't know this when playing through the DLC for the first time. Because of this, I treated this portion of the woods like the developers intended. I used my sneak skills from Skyrim and applied them here.
I'm going to find whoever did this.
Once you sneak past the first enemy, the game then introduces these plants that basically rat out your location to the lanterns, causing them to flurry on over to the plant you accidentally graze with your big toe. It's like a little elementary school tattletale who's constantly trying to get on a teacher's good side. So any wrong move you make, then bam, just like that, Miss Debbie's on your ass. Anyways, after these grueling sneak sections, I was rewarded with more rats because why not? Like seriously, most of this footage is me running around trying to explore the abysmal woods when there was literally nothing to explore. Or going toe-to-toe with frenzied rats. It's pretty boring, so I'll spare the details of the time spent between the first sneak section and the next one. I found a Shadow Tree fragment and a Grace right before the next sneaking section. This time it features 2 of these winter lanterns, which in turn requires you to be more patient while you're tiptoeing through the tulips like your name was Tiny fucking Tim. Clearly I wasn't patient enough on this attempt. And once I got past that one, I got screwed over while hiding atop this tree. Like come on, with Skyrim logic they shouldn't have been able to see me. After a failed attempt at running through the forest like Forrest Gump, I achieved victory. Once we get to this Grace here, there really isn't much else to talk about or do. It's honestly a straight shot down this path that will lead us to what we've all been waiting for, MIDRA'S Manse. A minimal amount of important stuff happened before I reached the manse, like the rat I fought, and this other one. And wow, another enemy type. Oh, look, another rat. Okay, look, for all the shit I'm giving this place for its enemies, it's got a cool atmosphere. But there was just so much wasted potential here that I'll bring up in my honest review section. But enough about the Abyssal Woods. It's time for MIDRA'S Manse. Approaching MIDRA'S Manse leads me to a very memorable encounter for me, which is pretty reminiscent to what we saw in the Stone Coffin Fissure before the Putrescent Night fight. Like come on, this is a genuinely creepy and a haunting opening to this mini legacy dungeon. These guys don't have brains. Literally, their heads are off of their bodies, replaced by a yellow stick. This can be implied to be something related to the Frenzy Flame, as when we come across Midra later, well, we'll get to that later. I'm getting ahead of myself. The entrance is right up ahead. We can open the doors, and to the right, find a swollen grape. When reading the item description, it tells us that this eye was touched by the 3 fingers, the thing that embodies the Frenzied Flame. We can walk up the stairs and see a ghost and hear someone talking to us, telling us to go back. Then... God, I love that sound. We can activate this Grace here, and then have a chat with his friendly greeting ghost, who mentions his master's name, MIDRA. Keep this name in mind, he's someone you more than likely won't forget. After chatting it up with Chancellor Welliger, we hit this hidden wall here so we can progress through the dungeon. This place is absolutely torn apart and rummaged through, with debris littering every room we step into. This could signify that some fight of great significance possibly took place here, but we'll have some more on that later. We can savagely tear through the harmless Shadow Men here, which you honestly don't need to do, but I suggest doing so, due to this enemy that came literally out of nowhere. These guys always seem to give me a run for my money. This horned warrior apparently spawns all the way down this hall, and there's another one that does the same thing up ahead. This room right here gave me a bit of hell. These damn sorcerers spam raging fireballs at you from atop the balcony, and oh boy is it not a fun time. It is ultimately satisfying once you figure out how to get up there and take them out, but in order to do so, we have to find a lever to access this hidden area behind a bookcase, which is a classic creepy mansion trope. We can navigate this maze of bookshelves and intellect, which leads us to the lever, which then leads us to a ladder. Climbing up here, we can talk to a ghost cowering in fear and take out these doofuses raining fire. I had a pretty big whoopsie-daisy moment here and found myself back at the entrance of the manse, which further infuriated me, mainly due to having to deal with these stupid horned warriors again. Anyways, we got back to our deathbed and carefully executed the boogeymen one by one. We climbed this ladder, which leads us to a scary traversal section. I jumped into a dark room with frenzied rats. Jesus, they're even inside of this place? Like, how did they even get up here? If you look closely enough, there's an item we can pick up if we take a plunge on top of this bookcase in a room we've previously gone through before. And that item is another one of those yummy grapes. I guess it doesn't hurt to have a snack once in a while between the dragon fighting and manse delving. Anyways, further advancing through the manse, we get to this point, and then we hear this. We can get a small glimpse of where these agonizing screams are coming from, and if you look closely enough, we can see a man inside this room here who is more than likely the culprit. Phew, that poor dude must be in some pain. We should go save him. Opening this door will open up a shortcut back to the first grace, so don't forget to do that before we move on. While browsing through the beautiful YouTube home screen a while back, I found a video going over the manse and talking about the lore implications of the place. In that video, the person showed that there was an invisible wall here, so in this footage I go ahead and attack it. Then we climb up this ladder and find a lever. There's a lot of levers in this place, but this one's important, trust me. It moves this whole bookcase. It's important, trust me. We do some jumping around and find some runes, and also some of these inquisitors around the place. We can also find the fat boyo up here in this room, and he's sitting on a revered spirit ash like it was his egg or some shit. These inquisitors are an interesting inclusion to the manse. It seems like the Hornset invaded the place. The reason why? I don't remember exactly. But my suspicion is that they wanted to execute some of the worst here, and what better way to find the worst of the worst than to ransack and rummage through the vacation home of Frenzied Flame itself. Next to this grace here is a ladder that we can kick down, which leads us back to the hidden wall painting. Don't forget to jump on top of the chandelier to grab a revered spirit ash. Remember that bookcase we moved? Well, it opens up a path to a corpse relaxing in a chair. And if we pick up the item loosely hanging onto the crippled and cold hands of this corpse, we can get Nanaya's torch. Apparently Nanaya was the lover of Midra. Phew, damn, there's that name again. Who even is Midra? And what's so important about this guy? Anyways, this torch used to be busted until it got patched pretty early on. I don't see much use for it now like the other torches of the game, but the madness buildup is cool, I guess. Anyways, let's go back to that grace. If we advance past it... Well, you heard the screams. You can look right and see for yourself how fucked this individual is. We can run up to him and he starts ranting about foolishness while limping towards you. All while this barbed spear is sticking through almost every part of his body. He's got a few frenzy-based scream attacks and whatnot, but he isn't too hard to take out. Now, after you take him out, we can move on. Wait a second.
Enough. I have endured more than enough. I ask you forgive me, dearest Nanaya.
That might have been the most badass cutscene in all of FromSoft history. Oh yeah, this is the real fight we've been looking for. Despite the state he was in a minute ago, we're now face to face with a Lord of Frenzied Flame itself. Or himself. I guess he has a gender, I don't know. And boy, does he back up that title to hell. He's got Frenzy Flame attacks he can spit out of his flaming head that travel in fast wave-like successions towards you. His combos, while deadly, are graceful and elegant due to the movement of his cloak and body. He's got delayed uppercut attacks and can add a little dagger swipe within all of these combos to catch you off guard. I don't know, I hate using this comparison since I've used it plenty of times before, but it's like a dance. Midra just moves so elegantly while he kicks your ass. A lot of FromSoft fights are like this, and I heavily enjoy this aspect. Maybe not the ass-kicking part, but the dance part. The soundtrack is outstanding, and I would love to play it for you guys, but copyright will have me in a chokehold like it was Homer and I was Bart Simpson. Anyways, once you do enough damage to MIDRA, he flies up in the air and slams Frenzy Flame all over the arena, completely changing the whole look of the arena in the process. It's a fucking sick design, and it makes the fight feel so much more intense due to the orange and red tint placed on your screen from the flames burning down the cloth on the walls. It's a badass moment, and it had my mouth agape when it happened. As you can see from his death here, I was dumbfounded. This fight was without a doubt my personal favorite from the DLC, right behind the Mesmer fight. There's just something about a Frenzy Flame boss fight like this one that gets me going, especially since the Frenzy Flame is so important to the lore of Elden Ring. And to fight a Lord of the Vial of Three Fingers made me starstruck. Oh, and this grab attack is fucking brutal. MIDRA will jump up in the air, slam his spear into your fucking cranium, and sprout out barbs throughout your whole body, like MIDRA had to deal with for God knows how long before we came across him. I guess it can be implied that the Hornsent wanted to take over the Manse and execute MIDRA, so they stuck this great sword of damnation through his whole body to subdue the frenzied flame within him. And while it worked for a bit, we as the Tarnished unleashed this as a last resort for MIDRA. And while it worked for a bit, we, as the Tarnished, accidentally unleashed MIDRA. It doesn't matter though, because in the end, MIDRA goes down after a long, grueling, and entertaining fight. Of course I use my Mimic Tier, my Tier 1 scrub. Anyways, we get MIDRA's Remembrance and a buttload of runes to spend on Q-tips, since you'll probably have Frenzy Flame dripping out of your eardrums after that fight. We can head back to the Round Table Hold and trade this Remembrance in for either the Great Sword of Damnation, or the MIDRA's Flame of Frenzy Incantation. I thought the novelty of owning the same weapon that had subdued the Frenzy Flame within MIDRA by piercing through his whole skeletal system was badass, so I easily took that over the Incantation. And that's about it with the walkthrough of MIDRA'S Manse. Let's go ahead and move on to the honest review segments of the video. Now, notice how I said segments. Since we covered a region and a mini legacy dungeon in this video, I will start by covering the Abyssal Woods first, then move on to covering MIDRA'S Manse. For the Abyssal Woods region, this is the criteria I will be reviewing it with: gameplay, stuff to do, environment and atmosphere, enemies, and the loot. The ranks include the following. We have the bad rating, okay, good, great, amazing, and perfect. Let's start by reviewing the gameplay. The gameplay of the Abyssal Woods region is subpar to say the least. I get the surprise factor of not being able to use Torrent to explore the place because he's too scared, but fuck, what about me? I was shivering my timbers running around this place not knowing what was lurking within it. However, once I learned about the rats and a return of the Winter Lantern enemies, I wasn't too scared. I was still pissed I couldn't use Torrent, but hey, it's an alright gimmick for a first time playthrough, I guess. For future playthroughs, I'm not a fan of it. I enjoyed the idea of stealth sections, and that really switched up this gameplay loop of the DLC. That was until I learned that you could parry what you were trying to sneak by, but either way I was still enjoying that aspect of it. Other than that, the Abyssal Woods doesn't do anything else for me gameplay wise. There really isn't much to do, but we'll get onto that for the next segment of the review. I'll give the gameplay of the Abyssal Woods a good rating, since, you know, you're still playing Elden Ring and the gameplay is outstanding. But even with the sneak segments and whatnot, this is bottom of the barrel when it comes to playing this DLC. For stuff to do, there isn't jack shit. There's like one named location if you don't include MIDRA'S Manse, and this area acts more as a very long passage just to get to MIDRA'S Manse. All there is here are rats, overgrown trees, darkness, and a few horn-sent enemies. And we have the winter lanterns, which are somewhat fun to try to sneak by. Still, there's not much else to say. I feel like this area was a big missed opportunity to include some other content, as the idea of a shaded woods deep below ground level of the Shadow Realm sounds so sick on paper. But it seems like they forgot to add a list of things to do. What they did have on that paper was a stupidly long passageway to a place people will no doubt want to re-explore on a future playthrough, but will groan when they realize they have to walk through here. For stuff to do, I give the Abyssal Woods an awful rating. Yes, I know this wasn't part of the ranking system, but there's just a whole lot of nothing here. And quite frankly, I am very unsatisfied with my stay here. 0 stars. Elden Ring never fails when it comes to presentation. And while there isn't shit to do here, the Abyssal Woods pulls off creating a haunting, cold, and scary atmosphere and environment. I enjoyed the overgrown trees looming over the character, blocking a majority of the light from above. I also just enjoyed the overgrown aspect of this place. It feels cold and damp and hidden from the world. And hidden for a reason. Look at these things. I give the environment and atmosphere of the Abyssal Woods a great rating. While at points it feels like this has been done better by other games, Elden Ring just took its own take with the scary forest idea and did something pretty memorable for me. Looks-wise. Definitely not gameplay-wise. The enemies. Yeah, I know. The enemies aren't really in abundance. Around every 5th corner in this place, you'll find a group of frenzied rats or some inquisitors. Rats are annoying, and inquisitors make sense for lore reasons and are satisfying to mow down in groups. But for enemies you're supposed to fight, that's literally it. Like, yeah, you have that NPC, but that's a one-time fight. So yeah, the actual enemies you fight suck. But golly, are the winter lantern things, which are actually called aging untouchables, are such a cool enemy. Yeah, sneak-based stuff is very opinion-heavy, but these guys made these sneak sections terrifying. I'll admit this wasn't what I was envisioning when I saw the messages from FromSoft on the ground, as they were hyping up these old raggedy ballsack. As they were hyping up these guys. But still, accidentally getting caught by these things and attempting to run away from them, but then realizing they could just fucking teleport behind you, it gave me a very memorable moment on my first playthrough. I imagine the gimmick will wear off on future playthroughs now that I know what to expect, and that I can parry them. But damn, these enemies look cool and they offered a change of pace within the DLC, something that was highly needed. So, while everything else kinda blew, the aging untouchables saved this category from a bad rating. I give the enemies of the Abyssal Woods an okay rating. For the loot, there's barely anything here. Maybe a few scraps of Shadow Tree fragments, but that's it. There are some materials you can pick up, but I don't care too much for crafting every single consumable within this game, just to use them once and be disappointed. I mean, at the church you can find the Frenzy Flame perfume bottle, which for frenzy builds is pretty sick sounding, but yeah, the loot of the woods gets a bad rating, and it's solely not awful due to at least having one ornament. Even if that ornament is a perfume bottle, it's something, I guess. Overall, the Abyssal Woods region gets a bad rating, which is sad because there could have been so much more done with this place. In the end, it's just a glorified yellow brick road to the real reason why we came down here. MIDRA'S Manse. For the legacy dungeons of the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC, this is the criteria I will be reviewing it with. The gameplay, the level design and environment, the enemies, the boss, and the loot. The ranks include the following. We have the bad rating, okay, good, great, amazing, and perfect. Let's start with reviewing the gameplay of MIDRA'S Manse. Yeah, it's basic, but I enjoyed fighting my way through the Manse. It's always satisfying to swipe down the Shadow Men, and refighting the Horned Warriors again was bittersweet, but still pretty interesting. With the hidden walls, the different levels you can get to, the levers that activate things. That's what levers do, I guess. There's a lot to do in this twisty and turny mini legacy dungeon. I'll give the gameplay of MIDRA'S Manse a great. I wish it was a bit longer, but for what we got a solid gameplay experience here. For the level design and environment section, I'll primarily be talking about why mansion areas like this are the best. Number 1. FromSoft always knows how to make a mansion-like area. This is proven by areas like the Duke's Archives from Dark Souls 1, Aldia's Keep from Dark Souls 2, or even the Grand Archives from Dark Souls 3. MIDRA'S Manse is pretty high up there with those types of locations. And yes, I am a Duke's Archives enjoyer, as well as an Aldia's Keep enjoyer. Number 2. MIDRA'S Manse perfectly encapsulates an area forbidden to many, and an area that has been ran through like a I can't say that. Let's just say this area has been ran through. Whether the Horn Scent did the right thing or not by executing many of these individuals is up for debate, but that's not what we're here for. The Horn Scent has this place in ruin, and the debris all over the floors and the structure of the mansion changing due to this makes this a chef's kiss for me of locations like this. I had something else to add to this list, but it slipped my head while making the script. Moral of the story is, I love this location, and wish we got more of its amazingly executed level design and environment. Okay, so the enemies are things we've already previously fought in other locations, but I guess they fit here. It was a surprise to see the Horn Scent Inquisitors here in an area they forbade, but after seeing the ruin this place was in, I think they did what they needed to do here. The Shadow Men are Shadow Men. They're easy to take out, but the mages here can be a nuisance. The Horned Warriors make a grand return, and curb stomped my head into the ground for like the 10th time this playthrough, because why not? I've said this many times before, but repeated enemies are common within this DLC, but at least these enemies, at their base level, are all solid. I'll give them a good rating. For the boss, come on, it's MIDRA. This fight is pretty unique due to its theming around Frenzied Flame. The fight was insanely fun, and I didn't find myself complaining once while attempting to learn the bastard's moveset. It's a grand moment in the DLC filled with them, but the power of a cutscene prevails here. It makes this fight just incredibly more badass than if we just walked in and fought MIDRA in his Frenzied Flame form. I guess the only minor gripe I have with MIDRA is how every time you die to him, you have to defeat the weakened version to start the fight again. But that's a very minor complaint, and I can't for the life of me dock the rating because of this. Yeah, MIDRA's perfect. He's my personal favorite fight in this DLC, and I would fight him 10 times over again because while this fight is tricky at first, it's the most satisfying to beat for me. The loot of the Manse is minimal due to its size, but the journey to get some of these things is the real highlight. Like getting Nanaya's torch by smacking a painting of MIDRA and Nanaya to find a lever that moves a whole bookcase, opening up a path to the corpse of Nanaya herself. That was pretty sick, and while the reward isn't too useful, it's still a nice presentation and makes the player feel satisfied that they found a secret like that. Other than that, there's still a good amount of little stuff that could possibly help you progress through the final sections of the DLC. With all that being said, it's just a lot of consumable items and crafting materials, and you know how I feel about those. I'll give the loot of MIDRA'S Manse an okay rating. While I found the rune drops, Shadow Tree fragments, and revered spirit ashes to be helpful for this section of the DLC, the only ornament here is a torch, and there aren't even any spells or incantations. Oh well. Overall, MIDRA'S Manse gets a great rating for me. There are many positives of this Manse and a few negatives. I just wish the place had more loot and was longer, but for what we got, I can't complain too much. That will be it for this honest review episode. I hope you guys enjoyed. I started my college classes back up a week or two ago, and I'm trying to find a good schedule to maintain my academics, while also pursuing this channel. So, I'm sorry for the inconsistency recently. I hope people are still interested in these Elden Ring videos. It's been about a few months since this DLC dropped, but I'm no doubt still enjoying making these episodes. If you liked this video, why don't you subscribe? I'm trying to make YouTube a primary focus in my life, and your support would be greatly appreciated. Even if you don't subscribe, your viewership in itself means a lot to me. This is Ace speaking, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and as always, peace out.